I'm Susan Tobler. I studied physics at ETH and I founded the Taste Lab. And today we're going to cook together a sustainable menu for the event of the World Food Systems Center of ETH. I was asked to create a sustainable menu for this event, and our research has shown in the last couple of months that the biggest driver in sustainability when it comes to food is animal products and CO2 emissions connected to animal products. So we created an entirely plant-based dish, so we're cutting out all meats, fish, dairy and egg products and replace them with plant-based sources. Especially when it comes to plant-based protein sources, people often don't know what to choose, and here we have an excellent choice of protein, which is beans. Later we'll talk about what beans and which beans you can use, but basically any beans you like can be used. The dishes we're going to cook is a starter, a main and a dessert. The starter is a small pancake with buckwheat flour, just to use an alternative to normal flour. We're going to top it with a roasted carrot that looks and feels a bit like salmon and tastes like salmon. As a main dish, we have roasted potatoes and leek with a turmeric broth and a sauce made out of preserved tomatoes. And the dessert will be marinated plums with a bit of whipped soy cream and a cereal crunch, which is made out of leftover cereal on the bottom of your box, which normally with milk doesn't taste very nice anymore. So here we're going to make sure that we're using things that would normally go to waste. Our starter is a buckwheat blini with cured carrots, soy cream and a bit of parsley. For the buckwheat blini we use buckwheat flour, which gives it an interesting flavor, but also just to use a different variety of flour to also foster biodiversity when it comes to different crops. The interesting ingredient we're using here is a leftover product from the main course, which is the liquid from the can of beans, which is called aquafaba. Only a little while ago, people find out that the consistency and the properties of this liquid behaves very close to egg whites. Here for the buckwheat blinis, we use the liquid from beans in a can. I have Swiss beans, but you can use any beans you like. Also chickpeas are a very traditional source for aquafaba. And we use 30 grams to make the pancakes. I'm going to measure that. That's just a bit. What we're doing now is we're whipping it up and making it a little bit frothy, not like with egg whites, but just a little bit frothy to get some air in. This slightly frothy aquafaba we're mixing with soy milk, a bit of oil, and then mixing this slightly to make sure not to lose too much volume. We'll leave it a little bit frothy. And then we're going to add the dry ingredients, which is buckwheat flour, regular flour, a little bit of sugar, some baking powder, and a little bit of salt. And mix it, and then it's like a pancake batter. We're then cooking it in a frying pan into little pancakes called blinis. In the meantime, we're roasting carrots whole on a bed of salt with a bit of oil, just long enough until they're soft but not mushy. We're then making a dressing, which is oil, use rapeseed oil, olive oil, or sunflower oil. Doesn't really matter, just depending on your tastes. A bit of vinegar. Here we're also using a bit of lemon juice. Then we add a bit of salt, pepper. But then here the most important ingredient, I think, because we're going to dress the roasted carrots with it, that should mimic the taste of lox salmon a bit, is something smoked. So I use smoked paprika. You can also take smoked salt to get that same smoky flavor like a cured salmon would have. So we take the carrots after they've cooled and baked and cooled, and brush the salt off. This is very important, so we're not going to eat all the salt. The salt was here to dry out the carrots and to give it a kind of a nice salty crust of this carrot. What we do now is we make layers. You can also, if you don't have a peeler or it doesn't work well with a peeler, you can also do very thin layers or slices with a knife. We're going to dress it with a bit of whipped soy cream and garnish with parsley. Our main dish will be roasted potatoes and leeks on a sauce of dried tomatoes and walnuts with a broth of turmeric and big white beans in. First, we're roasting leek and small potatoes in the oven, kind of traditionally with a bit of oil and some spices. And in the meantime, we're making a sauce out of dried tomatoes. Preserved ingredients are a nice way to get some summer flavors into the fall and winter when we can't get seasonally fresh tomatoes, or also peppers or eggplants are great antipasti things to make sauces out of and use a bit of summer flavors in the darker and colder winter months. So with the dried tomato and walnut sauce, I use a bullet blender. It's very, very easy to use and gives a very nice smooth paste, but you can use also if you have mortar and pestle, or then just chop everything finely and mix it by hand. It's equally nice. So in the bullet blender it's really easy because you just throw everything in the bowl, which is 150 grams of dried tomatoes. Then we have walnuts. 50 grams of tomato paste. I'm doing this by eye. 2 spoonfuls. Then to make everything a little less dense, I use 100 grams of water. A bit of salt to taste. Always season more later. And then I also use some smoked paprika. And then I use as oil the tomatoes came in, so don't chuck that oil away. It's always a very nice flavored oil. I'll use this to do the sauce with. And then I just blend it into a sauce. Finished. Then we're going to make a broth out of shallots, garlic, lemon zest, and oregano or majoran, whatever you can find. It can alternatively also be dried. Also here, use the leftover peels for your vegetable broth, together with the leek, which is a great way to reduce food waste and really extract all the flavor you have in your vegetables and use every bit of them. Here the shape is not that important, we're using it in a broth, so we just want to extract the flavor of the shallots. But the finer you chop it, the easier it is for the flavor to come out. So chop it as fine as you can. So in our broth we use garlic and shallots, we use a bit of lemon zest. Make sure you take organic, non-treated lemons if you use the zest. Then we use fresh majoran or oregano. You can also use dried alternatively if you have not fresh ones. Depending on how strong the ingredients are, it's around 2 to 3 stems. Then we have a bit of salt, half a teaspoon, turmeric, also, we use 250 grams of water and 250 grams of white wine, or alternatively vegetable stock. And this we now bring to a boil in a small saucepan and then simmer for around 10 minutes and then strain it through a sieve. Reheat the beans in this broth. Wash them slightly so the broth stays clear, and just reheat the beans. And then together we're going to put it on a plate. We're using a bit of the dry tomato sauce, dress the potatoes and leek on it, and garnish with the turmeric broth and the beets. As dessert, we're making marinated plums with whipped soy cream and a cornflake crunch. We're using plums now because in fall these are in season, but you can use any seasonal fruit you like. I very much like the cornflake crunches in this dish because it uses an ingredient or a component, especially in student homes, is very present, and it makes great use of the leftover cereal, sometimes very crunched up cereal on the bottom of the packet. To make the cornflake crunch, we take the cornflakes, we crunch them up even a little bit more if some are not already, and mix it with a bit of sugar, a bit of salt, and a bit of olive oil, and then roast it in the oven for around 20 minutes at 140 degrees. So what we're doing is we're cutting plums up, we're marinating those as well with a bit of sugar. The bowl. And top with a little bit of whipped soy cream. And add some of our cornflake crunch. It's a nice textural element. And there you go. So very, very easy dessert and great to use up any products you have.